widely recognized around the world as being really significant and special. So these wood pieces, the ceiling here, the fountain, these are all originals from a home in Damascus built in the late 1700s, which belonged to the Al-Quatli family, a very famous, well-known merchant family. The first president of Syria, when they gained independence in the 1920s, actually grew up in this house. And the family that owned this house deconstructed parts of their home and sold them to art dealers. And this is, there's been different waves of migration out of Syria. But at the time these homes were built in Syria, Syria was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. So sometimes they're considered Ottoman art, but they're very specific to Damascus. But they're also influenced by a lot of external areas from outside Damascus. But when the Ottoman Empire fell after World War I, a lot of these wealthier merchant families ended up leaving Syria. And so they deconstructed parts of their homes and sold them to art dealers. Doris Duke bought these pieces in the 1970s, again from Hagop Kevorkian. That name comes up a lot on our tours. And today they have the Kevorkian Center for Near East Studies at NYU, which houses Kevorkian's collection as a Center for Islamic Studies. So in 1970, she bought these interior pieces, and you could see how they were made to retrofit into this room, right? So they're pieces from the same home, but not all from the same room. So they're bits and pieces that were taken to made to fit into this space. And so this was originally 2 rooms. There was an office upstairs, and that's why that half door is up there. And there was a game room down here. And Doris Duke combined these 2 rooms and bought these elements, and this was her attempt of turning her living spaces into museum spaces. Because in 1965, she had made the decision to create the Doris Duke Foundation for Islamic Art, and the plan to convert her home into a museum, hence her private collection into a public one. She was 22 years old in 1936 when she first built the home. In 1965, she was in her early 50s. When she purchased those tiles from the shrines, the mihrab, she was 25 years old. And I personally believe having those tiles and really recognizing that what she has is significant and belongs in the public realm is the reason why she made this decision. And we were just having this conversation. I give her credit for that. There's a lot of things that Doris Duke and people of her generation and that amount of wealth did around the world, which are very problematic and things that we need to address and talk about. But I do give her credit for having the awareness to leave money aside for the preservation of these things. And the mission of our museum is to promote the learning and understanding of Islamic art, to make this place available to the public, to artists, to scholars, to come and research the collection. So that decision was made in 1965. And after that period, we see a lot of this renovation happening, converting living spaces into museum spaces. So this is actually the last space that Doris Duke renovated herself in the late 70s, early 80s. And you could see some of these pieces have been restored. So if you notice, this is the original. This one has been restored. You see how newer it is, it's been repainted. Some of these panel pieces also, if you notice, like this is the original, and then down here it's been repainted. You can see where it's sort of newer. And this was really, so these pieces were purchased, they were brought here. She hired artists locally here in Hawaii and craftspeople in Hawaii to basically piece these things together and fix and restore some of these elements. So these tiles that were cut and put on the floor here, these were actually done by Hawaii artists here. And these patterns are not something that you would really see anywhere else, because it's almost like a collaboration. They were looking at the original pieces and sort of recreating that, but then also influenced by what was happening in Hawaii and Hawaii's visual culture, like Native Hawaiian quilt patterns are sort of incorporated in here as well. So it's a really cool collaboration of artists across centuries, really creating a space like this. And like I said, we're very, very fortunate and feel very honored to have these interiors from Damascus, because a lot of these homes, they don't exist in Damascus anymore, especially the last 10, 15 years, what's happened in Syria. We've had Syrian artists come and get very emotional in these spaces, being able to really revisit old Damascus in Hawaii. I mean, it's a really, really special and emotional thing. I mean, I'm from Iran myself, and the first time I came to this museum, I had a very emotional experience as well, because you're seeing things that were taken from your home country or brought from your home country, and it felt sort of a kinship with a lot of these pieces. It's like, how did we all end up here, But it really is a great opportunity to share these cultures and to talk about the commonalities and similarities and build bridges across these cultures as well. Across cultures, religions, a lot of the symbolism in these pieces are universal things that people all around the world can appreciate. Yes?
It's actually something I wanted to ask about, particularly as we're looking at religion in relationship to the body and the earth body, as well as body politic and individual. And there's quite a few imagery of trees.
Oh, yeah.
And could you talk a little bit about the significance?
Yeah, so a lot of what you see in Islamic art, and again, I always use quotes when I say Islamic art, but a lot of what you see are depictions of nature, depictions of really trying to show, and the idea of symmetry that you see throughout Islamic art, you know, repeating geometric patterns, repeating sort of floral nature patterns, sometimes known as arabesque. They're philosophically, you're showing the beauty and perfection of nature, and sort of the beauty and perfection of God, right? You're depicting God through his work. But what's interesting is a lot of artists, and this is not exclusive to Islamic art, there's a lot of older cultures who practice the same thing, is when you're creating something, you know, you're creating symmetry, but artists always make intentional imperfections in their work. And that's a sign of humility, right? So as a human being, you're saying that I am exhibiting my humility and only God can create true perfection. But it's still, you want to get close to it, to represent the beauty of nature, the beauty of heaven, of paradise. A lot of the garden scenes that you see in Islamic art, that word paradise is originally a Persian word, paradis, you know, that describes heaven, right? So it's really, I think, philosophically for a lot of Islamic artists, you're trying to show the beauty of nature, which is very much connected to the practice of the religion. Yeah. And I don't have all the answers. I mean, you guys probably know just as much as I do about all this stuff. So it's interesting to talk. And having people from around the world is really interesting because we can compare these things from our cultures, you know? So if you look around, what you see, a lot of, and especially in this space, a lot of the fruits that are represented, the floral elements, these are not things that would be found in Damascus at the time when these were built. So again, a lot of the families that own these homes, they were trying to show their global sort of sensibilities. And if you look at especially the images at the very top, these are images that may look European to some, like Venetian or Victorian almost, but they're also depicting different parts of the Ottoman Empire. And we have a map of the Ottoman Empire in this case as well to show that how line. Look, that's original. This is all original, but some of it has been touched on.
Right.
Sorry, it's really hot in this space too. When you guys are ready,